Hello everyone and welcome to the November garden tour. If you are new here, I am gardening in Queens, New York City. This is considered zone 7B, and I'm going to be showing you guys around my front yard garden today and the plot garden that belongs to my neighbor and I help to manage just right around the corner. It is getting cold here in New York. First thing to note is that we are really losing a lot of sunlight. There are a few trees here in the neighbor's house that shade the garden. This is the morning and half of my garden is shaded right now. Then in the afternoon I lose sunlight in about like 1 p.m. So not a lot of my crops are producing anymore, even though they look nice and green. I'm trying to focus more now on my permaculture design class, and I have a little update to give on that too. I know that in the last video I said that I was going to design my whole building, which there are 3 tenants that live in here, including myself and 2 more, with a backyard, 2 rooftops, and a front yard. So because I want to get practice on designing these different structures in New York City. But my professor advised me not to do the plot garden yet because it's going to be a lot. He said to try to focus only on the house. My initial plan was to design all of this plus the plot garden for the class at least. But he said that to try to focus on the townhouse first, because it's 1,800 square feet altogether. It's already a lot of work to do, and there are so many challenges with shade and pollution and all the things that come with living in New York City. So it's a challenging site because it's an urban site, but I really want to learn how I can use the things that we do have and take advantage of them. I'm still going to do the plot on my own, but I use what I'm learning to also design the plot, because I do want to plant the plot next year too. I'm going to start here just to show around what's still alive in my garden, what's going on. And then we're gonna go to plot later. I'm gonna show what's happening there and give an update about the pea seeds that I have planted, the cover crop, and talk a little bit more about cover crops as well. So in this corner here I have these sweet potatoes. They're not doing so good. These leaves are starting to change color. I think it's too much shade. They're not getting enough sun in this location, but I don't really have much space there to put them, so I'm just gonna leave them here. I don't expect them to produce any sweet potatoes because I planted them really late, and a few of them were from slips, and I actually put the whole sweet potato here, as you can see, just to see what's going to happen. But this is an experiment and just give some grain to the garden. The green stalk, I have the lettuces have grown a lot. Look how big is this leaf over here. I have harvested a few leaves, but I need to harvest more. See some yellow happening over here, and they're looking good. This one is getting a beautiful color. Oh, look at that, all these little red specks, and it's very pretty. And my romaine all bolted. See how it's getting long like this? Means that it's going to seed. I think when I did plant this, even though I thought it was late, it's still a little warm for a few varieties of lettuce. So not only the lettuces in here, the lettuce that I also had on the raised beds bolted, but they will get really long, and then they'll send a flower into here, produce seed. But we don't want that to happen. We want it to form a head. This is a cauliflower. I moved it up here, put this little bench so they can get a little bit more sun. It's growing kind of okay, but the worms are still, I think in the last video was the one I showed that had all of the cabbage worms. I've been trying to pick them. You can see some damage still, but let's see if it will make it. It might not produce a cauliflower, but I'm gonna let it be here. Let's see how it's gonna look by next month. If it doesn't produce, it's fine too. I just wanted to see if it was possible. Kale, this kale here, it's looking a little leggy, I think, but starting to produce some leaves. And I might have to top with more soil in here. These beans, they're not producing as much. I have a lot of beans. They were big already, but they have a lot of new growth in them. And I'm not going to take it down. I'm going to wait till the frost kills it, because I really like the look of this trellis with this breeze in here. So I'll leave it for aesthetics. And there's another cauliflower in there that's getting shaded by this planter, so it's not really growing, so I need to take that out soon. Kale is springing back, a lot of new growth. This kale, this green stalk, has been here since the spring, so I keep like harvesting. Not as much, it's a little tall, but it could get taller. I think it got too hot for it in the summer, but now it's starting to be happy again. Some parsley in here that needs to be trimmed. I trimmed the mint, but now it just grew back. Mints grow so fast, so I need to trim this more to make tea, make some sherry or something. And nasturtiums are all kind of picking back up, so I think they're liking this slightly colder weather. I planted this variegated sage in here that I also got from the farmer's market, and this variegated thyme, and this place it in this green stock. They will overwinter here for next spring. This kale has kind of stopped growing. I'm wondering if it's because I haven't added any fertilizer. Everything else is kind of growing, so I was kind of wanting to see. But I might do some organic fertilizer in these planters, because I said that in previous videos too, but when they're in planters like this, they don't have access to the ground, so if they run out of nutrients, sometimes even like watering, and it has been raining a lot here in New York, they'll drain a lot of the nutrients out, and then they will need to be replenished. I did add worm castings to here, but sometimes I like to add a little liquid organic fertilizer to help out. The color of this kale is very pretty. I'll probably overwinter this. This overwintered last year. This is it had a parent plant. I might let it this overwinter again and give me seeds again. Lavender I had just harvested and is sending new buds. There's more new lavender buds. I love the smell of it. And back there I got some peas that are being shaded. See, even my bed there, it's getting, everything is dark. So nothing in the raised bed is really growing as fast anymore. But it's alright. There's some eggplant in there, some okra still. I took a lot of my okra plants out, but there's still a few that I left. And the tomatillos is still doing good. I got 2 big harvests from this huge tomatillo plant here, and I think I'll get another one. But also I'm not taking that out. I'll let it be and produce until the frost comes, because since it's kind of higher up, it's getting more sun than everybody else. The eggplants here on this green stalk, they're not producing, but they're looking beautiful still, so I'm just leaving them for greenery. And this nasturtium is so beautiful. See, all the nasturtiums are coming back with this slightly colder weather. This is one plant. Look how big they are. They're not frost hardy, but if the frost doesn't come, I just want to see how long they'll survive. And then the zinnias, it looks like they're all getting powdery mildew, so they're starting to struggle too. They like warm weather, but I'm still going to leave them to give some color for the garden. The bees still coming from them. There's some peas that are planted there to be intended as a cover crop, the same way I did in the plot garden. And here in this corner, this pepper, I am not going to overwinter the peppers that are in the bed. Those are poblanos that I harvested. There's a lot of poblanos. Harvest out of that. This is a bell pepper that hasn't produced in a little bit. There's some flowers in there, but it's been cold and it's also getting shaded by these big trees over here. This bed gets shaded first. And there's some calendulas that are coming back. Calendulas are cold hardy, so they can stay alive for a while. So I never planted them before. This is my first year, so it'll be an experiment to see how long they will last. 2, I have to put some. I have been. See, there's a lot of plants in here. I have been cleaning up the garden, so everything that's didn't have disease parents going in my composting here. And I'm trying to kind of compost in place, since that bin is obviously not as big. A lot of things already break down and it's halfway down, but now I put a bunch of new stuff again. And I have some wood mulch that our neighbor gave to me from her house upstate, and I'm just going to cover all of this with wood mulch after I keep putting plant matter in here. Here, this guy's going to seed, producing some flowers. Letting go, I hope that the flowers have time to mature and produce seed, and then drop the seed in there. And by next year, I'll have this volunteer bag right there. I think it's a great covering for the compost, and it's very happy on the shade, so I'm okay with that happening again next year if it does. The peppers, a lot of questions about peppers. People have been asking me. I am going to overwinter this Puma pepper and the Buena Mulata for sure, and a few other ones. I did have a lot of bugs in my garden. Not all bad, most of them beneficial, but more than last year, which is good because I wanted to attract good bugs to my garden. Had more diversity this year. But that said, I wanted to really be careful with putting this back inside with the soil, so I'm going to take it out, put in fresh soil, let it quarantine in my hardwood for a couple of weeks, and then I'll put it back in my house. And this green stalk has a bunch of peppers in them, so I was even thinking if I should move 2 or 3 tiers of this green stalk inside. I don't know, I'm thinking if I'm going to do that. I don't want to have to repot all of those peppers, and since they're above the ground, maybe they have fewer critters than the ones here. I don't know, but I will see. So by December I should make that decision before the frost comes. If I have a night that will get heat 32, I'll have to put these peppers inside for sure. They're already not happy because peppers do not like when the temperatures go around 40. Peas, I have this beautiful peas here that I have harvested a couple rounds already, and this is from row 7 seeds. I think I had some green ones. I don't know if I got a chance to film that. This is an experimental variety, so it hasn't been stable yet, so it gets some purple and gets some green, but they're very tasty, and they're supposed to keep they keep their color when you cook. So I already tried it and really liked it, so definitely a keeper for next year. And that's mostly it. There's a lot of peppers there I don't think are going to mature, but I'll pick them before I put them inside. Oh, there's one give here that's turning color. Alright, it's a habanero. I'll wait until it gets fully orange and I'll pick it. Bok choy, I forgot. It's getting bigger, not growing as fast, but getting bigger. We're getting attacked by some bugs here too, but not growing as fast as it did last year. Here, the carrots are, on the other hand, growing super fast in this green stalk. So let's see, you can already pick some of them in there. This is a shorter pocket green stalk, so I'm not gonna let it. I'll have to pick soon because it doesn't have so much space to grow. And the beets on this guy are really kind of taking a long time. I think it's the shade. These ones are growing a little bit faster, but the ones here are not. But I'm thinking they have less sun in there. But I'll leave them in here, the superfood hardy. Let's see if they will, how long they will last as well. If they don't produce a big root, I can always eat them for the leaves. These leaves are edible and they're good too. I like the taste of it. I'm going to head to the pot garden now and give you a little update on how the cover crops looking over there. And I'm gonna do some harvesting there. I'm gonna take the amaranth because I want to dry it out to make a Thanksgiving decor. Color's beautiful. You can also eat the leaves, so I'll pick the leaves to eat and dry the flowers and a few other things. So let's go check it out. The leaves are already turning, and isn't this just looking so beautiful? I'm a little cold. Should have wear another layer of jacket, but it is sunny here. Woo, too bright. That would be nice to show you guys around. But let's check out how those cover crops are looking first. So here are the peas. They have grown a lot. The last video I had just sold them through the seeds in here. I had just planted them. So now they have grown this much and they will act as a cover crop, as I mentioned. I did talk a little bit about cover crops last video, but just want to give you a bit extra information that I have just learned. So I have learned that cover crops concentrate its maximum amount of nitrogen when they come to flower. So usually when you're planting a cover crop in farming, you wait until they come to flower, then you will mold them, you cut them, and that the roots is just, you're not going to pull them out. You mold just up top. Some people till it, but then whatever the plant matter that comes to the ground, it will compost in place, and it will be like green manure. Will add organic matter to the soil that way, and also act as mulch. And the roots, what actually hosts bacteria that fix nitrogen, they will stay underneath there and then help enriching the soil that way. When I planted this, I thought the frost would probably come sooner and we wouldn't have time to go to flower, but I still wanted to do it because I had a lot of weeds in this plot this year, and I thought that if actually acting as mulch would help me for next year in the spring. But they're looking so nice and they have grown so much, and the weather is not looking like we're gonna have a frost for at least, let's say, a couple more weeks or even more. Maybe some of them will come to flower. That would be great. Now I don't have a lawnmower or anything. I'm in New York, or anything to cut them. I was just hoping that the frost will do that job for me. So if the frost does come, it's December maybe, we'll kill them. Once they die, they will just like stay over in the ground. They'll act as a green manure and that way, and mulch. So the frost will do the job as me tilling or cutting the top. I do not really like tilling. I am trying to apply no-dig methods, or I'm using some permaculture principles that I'm learning in my class too. I've just learned about the nitrogen fixing properties of the cover crop in my class as well. They're at its peak when the plant is actually flowering. Because when it does go to seed, if you let it pass the flowering stage and starts producing fruit, which produces the seed inside, then the plant will put all its energy towards that seed. So it's important that we break the cycle before it goes to seed. So once it flowers, you don't want it to pollinate and start fruiting. But as I was really interesting, and I wanted to share with you guys too. Most people would plant like clover or some other nitrogen fixing plants as cover crops. It's very common to plant soybeans after doing corn for the same purposes of preparing the soil as well. I did peas, those are just regular peas, because I had a lot of seeds that I got from someone that used to have a microgreen farm and that doesn't do it anymore. So he gave me a lot of pea seeds, and I was like, I'm just gonna try it out and see if those guys will help too. They're a legume, they do have nitrogen fixing properties. I'm running an experiment this year, but I'm very happy on how it's turning out. I'm very happy that it has grown as much as it has grown already. This is how it's looking from the top. It's pretty tall, looks really nice. It's refreshing to have some green when things are almost everything is starting to die. The compost here too, just want to mention too, before I forget, my partner Danny, he turned the compost and put it some of what was underneath on top. We haven't really been good at turning it this year. We've just been piling stuff in there, but it truly helps with decomposing faster. So we're also gonna get some leaves from the park. I asked someone in there to say it was fine for me to grab the leaves, and we're gonna put some leaves in here too, of the 3 leaves, to have some leaf matter, and then that would turn it one more time. And before it freezes, I want to put one more layer of leaf to leave it cover it, kind of protect the soil a little bit. So going back to garden tour, this tomatillo plant's looking pretty sad. There's a lot of tomatillos on them. I'm going to do some harvesting today and take a few things home. I am taking this amaranth with me. I'm going to, this is the one I say is going to dry for 4 hours. Marigold, this is one plant. This is one marigold plant that got that big. It's gorgeous. The zinnias are not doing very great. They all have powder mildew on them, but I let them stay as long as I can. Same with this, they all have powder mildew, but still producing flowers. But now I'm gonna get, there's a bunch of peppers here. The peppers are turning yellow, the leaves, they don't really like the cold. Especially the ones here, they're very exposed. The ones in my garden has a lot of stuff around them, so I guess it stays warmer. But I'm gonna harvest all of them. There's a lot of shishitos in here. Look at that. I'm gonna harvest them, and then I'm going to take them home. And one more thing before harvesting. Look at this tomato plant that just came back to life. It is much bigger than I thought. Let me see if there are any green tomatoes. Oh, there, it's producing tomatoes. I think this is aroma that are left in here, but it's interesting because it's a determinate plant, but it is determined to produce. Oh, look, more tomatoes. So there's more tomatoes here. They're not going to turn red. I don't know if I'm even going to pick them. And this tomatillo plant is all dead already too. I'm going to go ahead and harvest all those tomatillos over there. There's a little bit more of peas for cover crops in here that I didn't grow as much as I did in the front. Fig tree still has lots of figs. I'm not harvesting them. They're mostly from my neighbor. Let him come and harvest. But there's still a lot that can be picked. Grapevine is almost all ended its life. So this grapevine had a bit of a disease, and so I'm debating if I should use those leaves or not to cover the ground. I'm gonna ask few people to see what they think before I do it. Look at this. Looks like an animal just dug a crazy thing in here. Interesting. My neighbor came in here and trimmed all the time, because I didn't do that, so I'm sure it was him that came and did that. There's some stuff that's trash that comes from the streets. Unfortunately, somehow it makes it in here. I'm gonna clean it, but this is we're gonna let it compost in place too. Same with this stuff. There's a lot of new tomato plants because my neighbor was in a restaurant, and they made tomato sauce, and they strained the tomatoes and threw all back in here, and now there's a lot of tomatoes growing, which they will all die. They won't last to the cold, but maybe next year we have extra few volunteers, and I'll let them be, maybe. All these peppers here are to be harvested. An important update is that our neighbor here on this last side cut down a fig tree that was here and provided a lot of shade for us this summer. So without the tree, that opens up this area here, get a lot more sun. So hopefully next year this area of the garden will do even better than did this year. I did not bring a nice basket today, I just brought a bag. But I have all the peppers inside here. I'm going to throw the scissors in here. I want to pull this out. I want to see how they look all together. I need to put somewhere while I'm harvesting. I decided to also get a few basil flowers. It smells amazing. Look at this. So pretty. This is red amaranth. This also produces a grain, so I could let it dry and harvest the grain too. I'll see if I can do that with some of them, but just so pretty. And I have this other bunch of peppers inside the bag. I didn't even get the marigolds. And then this pretty basil, purple basil flowers that smell amazing. I will use for cooking. I love to make Thai curries using this, but then I'm gonna dry the flowers and use for arrangements too. But so pretty, huh? And so much. And I already have a lot of amaranth that was in my front yard garden, but I'm very happy to grab this other bunch too. So I'm going to end this video here. Oops, don't want to lose some of them. I did leave some of them in there still. I didn't take it off. I will come back for the marigolds. I don't want to put them in here and mash this up, so I don't want to get them all damaged. But I will come back for the marigolds later probably, but I was not expecting this much to fit this bag. So tons of peppers inside here, tomatillos too. Please feel free to leave a comment about anything in the comment section down below. Things that you saw in this video. If you have any questions or anything, I always try to answer all the comments when possible. And if you like this video, please give a thumbs up. That really helps. And if you want to keep learning more about growing food here in New York City along with me, see what I'm learning as well, please make sure to subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you next time.